Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.
All right, let's start the podcast now. I have a new jingle I wanted to run by you guys. Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. Oh, don't be say oh.
Is that hot? Is that a real candle?
It is a real candle.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well done. Very well done.
Well, yeah.
Thank you. Today's a very special episode because we have a guest on the pod. Our third guest ever is a very special guest. His name is Austin Drews, aka A-Lux, aka Austin Luxury, an amazing rapper out of Lincoln, Nebraska. And Austin, although I haven't seen you in many years, I do still love you. Do you love me is my first question.
That is obviously yes. And
okay.
I would say great rapper is a bit of a stretch. I get by. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that it's been so very long, but it doesn't even feel like it's been that long at all.
I know, man.
I think it's kind of like one of those things where you meet people in your life and they just vibe with you. You have very similar energies. And like, whether it's been 5 days or 5 years, you feel like you never really stop the conversation. That's definitely the feeling that I get whenever I get to talk to you guys. Like Keaton called me before that concert the other day and was like, "Hey man." And I'm like, "Dude, didn't I just see you like 20 minutes ago?"
Yeah. I know, man. It did feel that way. When I saw your face on the Zoom, it felt like no time had passed at all since we were chilling in my parents' basement, being high and goofing around and watching stupid movies. But no, thank you so much for being on the pod. We're really excited to have you. We have a lot of questions for you personally about your new mixtape, which we'll get into, and also just about your rap career thus far and what it's been like. But first, I didn't watch the Oscars. Did anything exciting happen?
First year ever where nothing happened. Literally fucking nothing happened.
Lots of Will Smith jokes.
Yeah, I know. Keaton and I were talking about this before the pod. We were like, should we bring that up? Maybe it's old news at this point, and maybe people have been talking about it too much. But I did want to get your take on it, Austin, and maybe hear everyone else's too.
I mean, yeah, if I gave a shit about award shows, I probably would have cared more. I'm not the biggest award show kind of guy, which is interesting considering I want to win like all the awards. But I thought like at first I was like, oh, this is fake. This has to be fake. I'm like, the Oscars is like nobody cares anymore and they need to drum something up and like, why not? And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, but why would they do that? Like there would be so many other avenues to like drum something up, and you know, the powers that be would probably do something a lot cornier than something like that. So I was like, oh, this is actually very real. And then the more I think what drives me the craziest about it is how much like it's just completely taken over Twitter to where I can't like tweet about my stupid degenerate gambling on sports. Instead, I have to read all this stuff about Will Smith. And again, like I don't care about award shows and like best picture. So that's kind of my take on it, is like, it was wild. I thought it was fake. Turns out it was real. I think we're all dumber for it. Like we deserve it at this point to just be constantly distracted by nonsense. But I mean, he went with the open slap. If he went with the closed fist hook, dude, Chris Rock probably would have been RIP'd on that stage.
I know. Yeah, the slap was an interesting choice. But yeah, I'm with you. That's what Keaton and I were wondering or wanted to talk about is, you know, there's been all this talk on the internet of if it's staged or not. And I had the same thing. I was like, first off, if it was staged, Chris Rock would have made a way funnier joke than he did. I do think he handled it amazingly well, but, you know, it wasn't. And then, yeah, it would have been like a silly bit. They would have come up with something.
The best thing I heard from that was like the joke he should have made was like, man, you see him this way in March. Just imagine him in August, like, which would have been hilarious given her Jada's indiscretions with August Alsina. But man, like, dude, I don't know. People got their stuff. Like, they're a married couple. That's fine. But like, you're going to smack a dude over making one like little remark versus,
about alopecia.
Yeah, I don't know. And we should be sensitive to alopecia, but I didn't know that. I didn't know she had alopecia. I doubt he did.
Yeah, I had to explain to my mom what alopecia was. She was like, "It's not cancer." I'm like, "Yeah, it's not cancer." So it's not that bad. I mean, she has a lot of sick wigs and shit.
Yeah, it was tough.
Julian, Cam, do you guys have a take on it? A hot take?
My favorite part was like a couple days after the whole thing happened. Someone released a video of like the view from the audience, like behind Jada, like right after Will Smith slapped the shit out of Chris Rock. And she's just like laughing and like clapping. She's like, "Yay, he hit the man for me." It's just
wow, I didn't know she did that.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's what changed my opinion the most. Was like, at first it was like, Will Smith was like, "Yeah, I stepped out of line. I fucked up. I feel bad." But even further than that is like, Jada doesn't feel fucking bad. So like, fuck her. And like, furthermore, rich lady lost her hair. Oh no, rich lady lost her fucking hair. Wear a wig. You're rich as fuck. Like, I've heard other comedians make this point in like a joking way, but in like a serious way, just wear a fucking wig and then people won't make bald jokes anymore. Like, you're either not sensitive about it or you are. And like, if you're sensitive about it, just cover that shit up. I mean, she's
like
still
an Elon
hot.
Musk.
She's still fucking rich as shit. I mean, she can still ultimately do whatever the fuck she wants. So like, I can't feel too bad for her. It is funny though. Like, my final thought on the whole thing is, it is funny how much, and I think this goes into Austin's point pretty well. It's just funny how much media, like celebrity bullshit, consumes the zeitgeist. Like,
dude,
there's a war going on right now. There's a pandemic. I don't want to be like the old man, like yelling at fucking trains, but like, I mean, there's so much going on right now, and this is all we've talked about for like days.
Well, dude, I studied broadcasting and journalism in undergrad, and like, to see how it's been completely just skull fucked by corporate greed and hot take isms and the instant gratification ism of just and the collective like really short attention span of everybody, that it's to that point like taking over the zeitgeist. It's just a slap in the face to my entire education. Like just like good journalism, of like asking questions and like finding the root of the issue and like reporting on something that's an actual big deal. Like, the people that reported on like Watergate would look at this shit and just instantly, I don't know, like take a cyanide capsule. They'd be like, I don't want to live in this timeline anymore. It's so gross.
It's so gross. And like, there used to be like, I don't know, finesse, used to be like a little bit of grace and like dignity to a disagreement. And now it's just, oh, you said a mean joke, I hit you in the face. Like, is that really what it's come to?
The precedent it sets for comedians.
Yeah, comedians can't tell jokes
anybody
now.
that says anything. It's like, you can just walk on the stage now. Like, think about some dude in some tiny club in LA or New York, just trying to like make it. He's 32 years old, giving it a shot. Like, he's been playing the circuit and finally gets a bigger gig, makes some wisecrack, and the dude out of the front row hits him or like stabs him or something. And it's like, oh, well, Will Smith did it. People are that stupid. Like, people are that dumb to just be like, oh, well, dude, Will Smith got away with it. It's like, to your point, he's rich as fuck. He can do that. You can't do that. Sit down.
Are you telling me I can stab people?
Yeah, it has and comedy, a common sentiment amongst comedians already has been like, because of cancel culture, because of all the other forces in the world, like there's already a lot of limitations put on what comedians can say. And now that it's like escalated to physical violence on such a large stage, it's even more damaging.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's
and the fact that no one really condoned it, like, or like spoke against it either way. Like no one said anything. Everyone just pretended like it didn't fucking happen. Which like
they gave him an award.
Yeah.
They gave him an award after.
And
they were like, "Here you go."
They were like, "Hey man, would you consider
what the fuck?
Would you consider like leaving because you kind of caused a scene?" And he was like, "Nah, I'm not leaving." And they were like, "All right, sounds good.
All right, we'll send Denzel over. He'll calm him down."
Yeah, and then Denzel says some Denzel shit.
He steals the scene all the time.
Life is a train, boy, and you gotta catch the boxcar that's heading south."
I'm just saying, Scientology has to be one hell of a fucking drug, man. Like, gee whiz, what it has done to people is just wild.
Yeah, indeed. I know. Yeah, that was some in like the more violent end of the spectrum of a Tom Cruise type move. What Will Smith did. I don't
instead of punching a couch talking about loving Katie Holmes, it's slapping a guy who made a joke at your wife's expense.
Yeah.
It wasn't even at her expense though. He was like, "Hey, I love you, dude." Like, it was a joke.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm glad we touched on that, and I'm also glad that we touched on how multinational media conglomerates are conspiring against the people to push the agenda of the ultra rich and essentially strip us of our true nature and our divinity.
Hey! But you get freedom, and iPhones. So how bad could it be, man?
Yeah, you're right. Trade-offs. Nothing's perfect. But okay.
Kind of. Sorry, I don't want to tangent this whole thing right off the bat, but I just have to say, mad respect to you for the background tonight, Colin.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was very saddened to hear about Bruce Willis, and this background is from Moonrise Kingdom, which is a Wes Anderson movie, and one of my favorite Bruce Willis roles. So,
are you a cinephile?
I would identify as somewhat of a cinephile. I do love movies. I love going deep on directors and classic films.
Yeah, we should all pour some out for Bruce Willis. That's a really shitty situation.
I actually got some chairlift warmer right here. It's not degreaser, it's peppermint schnapps. So if y'all are ready to pour one out for Bruce, I am.
It's a strange thing to have so readily accessible.
On hand. We gotta talk after this, Cam.
Is it chilled?
I think you have a problem.
It's nice lukewarm room temperature peppermint schnapps.
Even better.
If it's not warm, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Dude, that just takes me back to like my first weekend of undergrad drinking like warm Burnett's at a party where I know like maybe half of one person and just getting wasted on it to the point where I like passed out and threw up in the backyard and like woke up later and saw like sirens flashing and stuff. And it wasn't like to bust the party. It was because of a fight that happened outside of the party. But my 18-year-old dumbass is like, "Oh, I should probably leave. It looks like they're rolling this.
They're here for me, probably." Yeah, good times. Well, let's get into more of your most shameful drunken moments a little bit later, Austin. I'd love to touch on that.
They're few and far between.
I do want to get into the mixtape that you recently released Cruise Ship. For all of our listeners, truly, like, I mean this honestly, man, I was really impressed by the entire mixtape. I loved all the songs. I have a list of lyrics here I was going to read off later because you truly are an amazing lyricist. And it was, like, honestly, really, really enjoyable.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to maybe ask about what the process was like, how it came about, when you started working on it, really whatever you want to talk about relating to the mixtape.
Yeah. So for Cruise Ship in particular, it was kind of one of those things where I mean, I started making music like 5-ish years ago. And more than anything, I just wanted to actually sound competent. Because like if you go back and listen to some of my stuff that when I first put it out, like if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't have any releases until I had gotten to something of like cruise ships quality. But I also am kind of happy that I do have that stuff out because it kind of shows the progress. But like with cruise ship in particular, I wanted to do something that was still kind of my same nature of like, I'm this goofy, like Mayo white stoner that just really appreciates rap music and making sing-songy stuff, and, you know, kind of make it a little bit more serious and less about me just hanging out and masturbating and more about like hard hitting issues and like dealing with, you know, anxiety and dealing with like imposter syndrome and dealing with, I don't know, a lot of like complex feelings of like self-actualization that we all kind of deal with. You know, anytime you're hanging out, it's like Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and you just are second guessing everything in your life for no particular reason. I wanted to have a little bit more of like that in the music. So I was kind of putting together some collections of songs. I found a couple of producers on Reddit. One, she goes by Rose Beats. I actually don't know if her name's actually Rose, but if it is, she goes by Rose Beats and her Insta is Rose Beats 09. She makes awesome shit. And I saw her hit me with a few things, and I actually was the first person to lease beats from her. So that was like really cool to help like get her career going. Not to say that like I'm the person that did it, but like to be the person that was the first to buy her beats and lease her beats was pretty cool. And she had the beats for Cruise Ship, Toxic, and Lunch Break. But when I heard the one for Cruise Ship, I was like, holy fucking shit. And the flow just hit me immediately. I'd been listening to a lot of Juice WRLD at the time, and I was like, yes, like this is just it. And I did a recording and I showed it to my wife, and she fucking hated it. She was like, you sound nasally, like your vocals are way too hot in the mix, like it's overpowering, I can't hear the instrumental. And I was like, okay. Go back to the drawing board, completely re-record, and that's where you have it, what it is now. And the rest of the project just kind of rolled from there. I found another couple of guys from Reddit. One of my main producers, his name is Austin, but his producer name is Scalloper. He did the beat for Medicine. I'm trying to think of the other ones that he had on there. But Medicine, he did basically all the production for that. So like he made the beat, mixed my vocals in, mixed Terry, who's I Am Polar. He mixed his vocals in and did that whole mix and master process. So he and I work together pretty consistently now. We'll send stuff back to each other all the time. He lives out in New York. And yeah, so it was just kind of this, I'm getting a little long-winded, but it was just kind of this compilation of like, I want to make stuff that's still kind of true to me and my goofy character that I'd like to play on the mic, but also make stuff that's a little bit more serious, but to bring that production value all the way up to a new level and have some producers on there that would also want to assist in that production process, but have, you know, something to share for their portfolio and their fan base as well.
Yeah, man, no, great answer. And you touched on a lot of things I want to talk about, especially the production, because I was impressed by the quality of the production all the way through. And I was going to ask about who you collaborated with on the beats and everything. So no, that's fantastic. I do have more questions, but I don't want to hog the floor. Keaton, Julian, Cam, anything to interject?
I just wanted to say, I've never met you before, and I didn't know you were a rapper, obviously, because I didn't know who you were. So when I got the text to go listen to you, I was like, yeah, I was in completely blind. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And just mirroring kind of what Colin said, the lyricism is incredible. And after hearing what you just said, I feel a little bit better about what I was going to say, which is just that, like, seems like you're like playing some kind of almost character in some of the songs, but there's like a transcendence beyond that into like some serious conversation. Mm-hmm. And the production is very, very good. Like, it stands out, it's unique, and it does sound like it comes from an educated place. It's not just like slapping some beats together. So yeah, I mean, I was highly impressed, and I think your lyricism stands for itself, man. It fucking slaps.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think what gets difficult, and you guys can definitely appreciate this as musicians, is like it's always so subjective. So like sometimes I'll put together something and somebody will be like, oh, that's fire. Like I'll send it to somebody else and I'm like, that's corny. I'm like, all right, well, how do I strike a balance to like people that like it will love it and people that wouldn't like it normally will at least appreciate it. So I think that's kind of where this tape in particular fits, is for people that don't like my music, or more than anything, don't really like me, they can hear it and know, okay, he at least gave a shit about it. He wanted it to sound right. He wanted vocals to sound mixed. He wanted stuff to hit where it's supposed to. I started playing with stereo space a lot more, mixing, layering vocals a lot more when I was mixing. So like to just be in that balance where the couple of people that really like my shit will really, really like it. And then, you know, some other bigger producers or bigger artists, if they hear it, they're like, oh, okay, I could see myself like featuring this guy at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And to expand on a lot of what Julian was just saying and what you've said, you know, maybe it's because I know you personally, but I think it is because you just did this really well. But you jumped very seamlessly from being very sincere and then also to being kind of like more tongue-in-cheek. I don't know how to say it, but you know, a little bit cheeky, I guess, but in a very self-aware way where I could tell it was a deliberate choice and you were doing it for a reason, not just because you were trying to mirror the motifs you hear on a lot of rap songs today. It was done in a self-aware and very thoughtful way, I thought.
I tried to strike that balance between like Young Thug behind me and like Lil Dicky, but not like to that extent, because he was a real big like early influence, and I was like, oh, I'll do like the funny rap type thing, but I'm like, no, like I don't like that niche isn't really me either. Like I want my bars to be funny, but I don't want like my entire sound to be funny. Mm-hmm. And that's where there's more of the Young Thug in there. Like he's got a bar on Halftime where he's like, I want your pizza, Little Caesar, bitch. And I'm like, I want to do shit like that. That's hilarious. Like, yeah. But he's not trying to be funny. He just is funny.
Yeah.
And the music is still really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big thing too, is you want the music to be good. Because if it's not, then what's the fucking point?
Yeah, I was gonna ask too, what was I love the album art on your latest release. Like what was the influence behind that? Did you do that as well, or?
I totally cheated. So it's a like photo filter app. I saw an ad on Instagram. It was like, oh, I'll try this. And that's actually a picture my wife took of me. We were coat shopping in the middle of like November. I needed a new winter coat and we were at a Shields. And so that's like me in front of the coat rack in Shields. And I just threw that filter on it and I was like, money.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Keaton, because I was going to ask if it was taken in a Jack's sporting goods.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it looks like a Jack's a little bit.
Would have been a good guess.
Yeah, no, I like the artwork too. I did, like I said earlier, I identified some lyrics I just wanted to touch on. All of them are from, I guess, the titular track, A Cruise Ship, because I thought that was a interesting track because it was I went back and listened to it and I was like, man, I can't believe this track is less than 3 minutes, because I feel like you packed in a lot of good stuff in that short amount of time. And it did resonate with me a lot, which is cool to find hip hop that resonates with me. But some of my favorite lyrics were people think I'm happy, tell them listen to my slow shit. I've been so depressed, it's like my eyes are super soakers. I can't read my handwriting on this. Oh, life is like a game and I had never had controllers. I loved all of those lines because when I first heard them, they had kind of a lighter touch. And I was almost like, oh, I think he's kind of addressing depression and anxiety in a, to use this phrase again, tongue-in-cheek way. But then when I listened back to it, I was like, those are actually very hard-hitting and impactful lines. And it was interesting to think about a rapper rapping like pretty sincerely about mental health in that way in a track like that. So I wanted to ask kind of what that process was like, what it was like writing those lyrics. If you did feel self-conscious at all, kind of putting yourself out like that. I don't know what you think.
I feel self-conscious about everything all the time. I think that like self-consciousness and confidence kind of are a yin and a yang. Like you have to be self-conscious and self-aware in order to be confident. And so like I like to put myself out there, and I like to be expressive, and I like to let people in, especially through a musical way. So with that song, I think I was just kind of in my feels for a little while and was kind of feeling that like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like I'm getting a master's degree, but I don't know if I even care. Like, am I ever going to have any money, you know, like not living paycheck to paycheck, just kind of like problems that are on a grand scale, not really big problems, but they're problems to me. So like how I can use that in a way to not like have people pity me necessarily, but to be like, okay, like that's relative to me, or like that's something relatable to me, or something that I think would be reasonable. So like with something like that, I don't personally have like diagnosed depression. I have diagnosed anxiety, but I have a lot of friends that do. And so I like to channel kind of their experience. I have one friend in particular that has some pretty serious anxiety, depression. And I like to channel his perspective a lot when I write stuff, especially things about like toxic ex-girlfriends, because I don't have too much experience in that department. But he does. So I like to kind of bounce stuff off of him and like get that perspective. So that's kind of where Cruise Ship was. It was like me feeling pretty down, but then wanting to expand that and like really embellish that feeling of just like, I feel stagnant and I feel like I'm not going to make any progress on anything. And like, yeah, I make this silly upbeat music, but if you listen to the really slow stuff, it's actually really fucking depressing. And it's just a different side of the artist.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I could keep going, but again, I don't, any interjection from the crowd.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Austin, I came in listening to your music from a very similar place Julian did, and I listened to like more of your like just when you first click on your discography, like those songs. And I noticed like the kind of like how you said funnier, like more upbeat stuff. And then I listened to the titular song that Colin mentioned, and I couldn't help but notice like the more depressing themes. Also, I didn't catch it the first time around, but even in the bars Colin was just relaying back to us, like I noticed the kind of underlying theme of making the analogy and like tying back to youth, like the depression and the super soakers line and the controllers, like with the game line. Like those are often motifs of youth and like stuff you do as a child. And I think that because like obviously when I experience like the you know, those feelings of depression and stuff, I often find myself longing for like the past and that kind of stuff. So I'm wondering if you took inspiration from your memories and were tying those together with that.
Yeah, I mean, that was really very well like said, well stated. I don't
question,
when I was making stuff, I don't know that it was that deep, like from something I was paying attention to, but subconsciously, I'm sure that that's definitely there.
Yeah, totally.
Because I mean, I'd be lying to you if I didn't like say that. Yeah, I like and I love what I have now and like the experiences that I have now. And you know, I'm not like super old. I'm 26, but
to be a kid again, man.
To be a kid again, man. Like we all miss that. And like, what's the adage? It's like there's a time in every parent's life where they pick up their kid for the last time and they don't know it. Like it's like we get those things all the time. Like when we were kicking it and chilling in y'all's basement, being stupid, getting high on ditchweed at like 18. Like at some point, there was the last time that we did that. And I'm sure that my subconscious all the time when I make music, especially stuff that's either more of an upbeat song or like more of a tongue-in-cheek line, it calls back to that youthful, like, man, sometimes it'd be cool to just be like 15 for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That's really well
absolutely.
said, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's interesting too. The underlying subconscious thing. That's awesome. And I totally listened to the song and like I guess just just didn't hit. But when Colin was repeating, I didn't even notice that. Like it's fascinating. Did you notice it, Colin, when you were writing them down?
No, and that's really funny. Yeah, because the 2 lines I did point out had controllers, video game controllers, presumably, and super soakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good catch, Cam.
Thank you. And good bars, Austin.
I could spend the whole podcast reciting lines from the songs that I really loved. I did just want to touch on one more though, which was the Phoebe Bridgers reference you made.
Yes.
What song was that in again?
That's in Medicine. We
That
get
is Medicine.
motion sickness, Phoebe Bridgers.
Phoebe Bridgers. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. I
pretty
love
good.
Medicine was one of my favorite tracks too, but I loved that Phoebe Bridgers reference. I thought that was I don't know, very well placed, and
I fucking love that
hit
song
me.
so much.
yeah,
Especially because my dude Terry comes on. He's like, Pola!
yeah.
I'm aiming for the top, peak of the mountain, claiming that spot. He's just got so much Yellow Wolf in his style. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, and that's a good segue actually, because you've mentioned Young Thug, you mentioned Lil Dicky, mentioned Juice WRLD. I did want to just ask about your other influences and how conscious those were going into the making of this collection of songs.
I'd say of late, Juice WRLD has probably been my biggest. Young Thug's my favorite rapper of all time, which wasn't always the case. I didn't really start getting onto him until I was out of college. I think he had dropped Jeffrey when I really started to, and that might have been when I was still in college. Regardless. So a lot of Juice WRLD, a lot of Young Thug. Actually, the Kid Laroi, I think his music is so fucking good. I can't even stand it. Like, I know he's got the like uber poppiness now, and like he's 17 talking about sipping all this Henny, and I'm like, who the hell's buying you Henny? But like he's just so talented. I'm like, man, I would kill to have vocal range like that and a natural vibrato like that, and just being able to just sound so like whiny and angry, but like so on key at the same time. So I love a lot of his stuff. I don't make a lot of music like Trippie Redd, but I love a lot of Trippie Redd's music. But then there's a lot of like pop punk influences too. So like everything going back to Blink-182 or like really OG Fall Out Boy. I listen to a lot of A Day to Remember. So kind of bringing in not so much their style, but those kind of sadder, harder themes. I would say that those are kind of the ones that really stick out. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Black Cheeto. He and I have never met, but he makes such good music, and I've had him feature on 2 songs, and I'm sure he looks at every time I DM and is like, this fucking guy again. But his shit goes so hard, and it makes me want to make music every time I hear it. And it's like, I'm not necessarily trying to make what he makes, but when he does release stuff, like his album Aux Chord Hero made me like so badly want to make something even close to that good. So
Right on. Black Cheeto, you said?
yep, Cheeto with a
Right
V. So like CHV. Wait, Black. Sorry, that was so bad. Cut that shit out. BLVA or BLVCK. So like the V is in black,
Gotcha.
and then Cheeto is spelled like Cheeto.
Okay. Shout out Black Cheeto.
Yeah, dude, his music's
Yeah.
awesome.
Any other questions? Because I do have a sort of topic changing question that I did want to bring up, but I don't want to take it off the music prematurely. So
Okay,
Julian, you're off mute.
I just have one rap related question.
Yeah, dude.
What do you think of Freddie Gibbs?
So I don't really listen to Freddie Gibbs, which is, I don't know. might be a controversial take, but I understand that he is incredibly successful, and I understand that he's somewhat polarizing. From what I know and what I have heard, he's a talented rapper. I would say that he does a really nice job of using newer school influences, but still being more of an old school rapper, which I think is kind of difficult to do. But yeah, I don't listen to as much Freddie Gibbs, so I should probably dive back into his discography. Is he one of your favorites?
Well, yes and no. So the main reason I asked is just because your style and your beats didn't necessarily like remind me of him, but just the switching between kind of being, like Colin said, tongue in cheek and going back onto serious shit really quickly, or even referencing very serious shit in a tongue in cheek way, is something that I feel like Freddie Gibbs does a lot. So I was just curious, like, if that was any sort of, again, like underlying influence. But I mean, there's so many of those types of rappers out there. I guess Freddie Gibbs, I just liked him a lot when I first discovered him because he does remind me of a lot of really old school guys, like in a lot of ways. But he does take some pretty new school influence as well. But lately, yeah, he's said some shit where I don't like fully agree with him. So I try to just remove the art from the artist a little bit. But overall, yeah, very talented dude. I was just, super curious if he was in your world at all. Because again, like, I don't know, even like Juice WRLD to a certain extent does that thing where he switches back and forth really quickly between like being just kind of like a nonchalant tongue-in-cheek dude and then saying like some serious shit.
His bars are insane, especially like with how well he could freestyle. It was crazy. And I think we're going to probably get a lot of Juice WRLD music for a long time, because I think he's got like 2,000 songs in the vault that the label is just going to keep pumping out posthumously.
Crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I did want to ask this, actually. It reminded me as you were naming your influences. You do have a very melodic style to your rapping. Was, when you first started rapping, was that something that was conscious? Did you just find that sort of melodic, I think you called it sing-songy voice right away, or was it something you consciously developed?
That's been more of a development. The first mixtape that I like officially put out that wasn't on SoundCloud was called Nature Boy. And there's a few songs in there. Like the first single that I put out was called Love. That's a little bit more sing-songy, but even then you can kind of hear like the earliness of my rapping, where I'm just more than anything trying to stay on key versus, or like stay on beat versus like actually like deliver a bar. So there's not a ton of that, especially early on. But as I started to get into the first grad school album I did, or mixtape I did, I call them albums interchangeably, but they technically are all mixtapes. But that one has a song called Have Faith on there that I really liked. And I wish that I had like the knowledge I do now, because I'm sure I can make that song fucking awesome. But that's where I really wanted to do more of that melodic sing-songy. That song is very heavily influenced by Post Malone. So I would say it was definitely more of a development over time, instead of initially kind of starting out on a goofy, like Lil Dicky type rap.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I ask a somewhat sidebar question?
You can ask me
I don't want to
anything.
derail, so I'm sorry.
Please do.
I'm very curious. You said you started making music like 5-6 years ago. What was your approach? Okay, so what drew you in? What made you decide like I'm gonna start making music? And then what was your approach to like making those first songs? Did you like have the words first? Were you writing words first, or writing like melodies and stuff, or did that all stuff kind of like find you?
So I've always, really, even going back to being a kid, have always kind of had big aspirations of being a rapper. I think that every nerdy white kid from a suburb in America has that dream. So it's not like I'm special, but I think that's kind of where it comes from. But was always so timid. I was always so afraid. I was like, oh, what are people going to think? Or what if I'm no good? And then when I was in college, there was actually a dude who I went to school with freshman year, and then another guy. This dude, he goes by Skate, but he like dropped out of school and moved to LA, and he like is on Wiz Khalifa's label now, or like is buddies with Wiz Khalifa. And I'm like, all right, well, that's fucking cool. So he kind of was an inspiration to be like, hey, why don't you actually try it? Because you never know what could happen. But it wasn't until I was out of college and moved back to the town I went to college in Hastings where I was like, fuck it, I'm trying it. Like I got a MacBook, started playing in GarageBand, started messing with their loops and making beats and tried to make my own. And then eventually was like, I'm just going to do whatever I can to like rap on these. And I'm just going to keep trying and trying and trying. And I bought a couple different mics and, a little sound baffling and tried to just upgrade the setup. And it's just become second nature now. Like it's my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite way to like spend time. If I have 15 minutes to an hour or whatever, be like, all right, well, let me see if I can write something out. So, once I started getting some beats down, and my beats are terrible. So I was more of like a mixer than an actual producer. But then I started to kind of write out some ideas of, here's an idea for a song, or like, here's an idea for a theme. Writing and words come very easily to me. I get that from my mom. She's an English teacher. So like hooks and shit, I can just, if I have an idea for the melody, like I can kind of put together something or scroll Twitter to come up with an idea for a hook. So it was kind of like, okay, now how do I start to craft stuff out from there? So I kind of get the flow I want, then I can kind of come up with a few ideas and themes, and then I start to write the words.
That's crazy. I have so much trouble coming up with words. I'm like good at writing, but when it comes to like coming up with words for songs, I like draw blanks constantly. And again, it seems like you never ever have that problem because you just go.
I do hit writer's block,
bar to bar to bar.
I do have the problem of hitting writer's block, and I think more than anything, it's getting repetitive. So it's not so much that like I just have all this shit to say. It's that I've said the same thing twice or three times. I think there's a few times where there's like 3 different times on the tape when I listen back to it where I use the phrase fade away in like 3 different contexts across 3 different songs. Like if I were to break that down and critique myself, like that's a phrase that is used on 3 different songs. Like, does that feel lazy? To which I'd say to myself, probably. So I'd say that like stuff comes to me really easily, but I think where I struggle is like that really good fine tuning to make it original, not only like for the sound, but original to what I've already made in my catalog.
Well, at least you're paying attention to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people who don't give a shit about being repetitive.
Nope. I mean, I listen to a shitload of Young Boy too, and that man said I got a glizzy on it in like probably every track. So
It's a good term to repeat, at least. It's a good one.
Young Boy is so fucking funny.
I was
hilarious.
Whenever like rappers lyricism comes up in conversation, I always think about how Eminem like used to when he was writing lyrics, he would have an open dictionary and just flip through the dictionary and just find words and just try to match that word with what he'd already written. And that's where he kind of gave credit to like developing his such unique ability to like blend different sounds together. It's so fascinating.
Something J. Cole has talked about is he's like, take your notes app or your notebook or whatever, pick like one word and then try to write out every single thing that you can think of that rhymes with it. He's like, then write your lines from there.
That's just like a good memory exercise too in general. Like that's probably just good for your brain as it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've been on J. Cole since he was like, not when he was first coming up, but like before he dropped Forest Hills. So like before he got real big. The first song I heard by J. Cole was Lights, Please. And I was like, man, like this just has so much soul to it. And it like just has so much. So that's kind of the J. Cole I grew up on. Haters say he's corny. I disagree.
I disagree.
But you can tell like how much effort he puts into the lyricism and like how he wants stuff to like not only flow like bar to bar, but like the entire stanza to like lead into the next one and to keep playing on it. And he's very much a poet in that regard, that like the whole verse is supposed to encapsulate itself versus a lot of like just one-off lines that people do, that I do a lot.
Yeah. I'm really curious now, at least because I'm a couple years younger than you guys, obviously. When J. Cole was first coming up, like in my grade and my friends, we had never seen a faster turnaround from someone being absolutely despised by the general masses to just loved and like adopted and adored. Like people, it was like, it was cool to hate on J. Cole, at least like in my group. And then like and then Force Hills dropped and it was like, this dude knows music. And it was like the gnarliest turnaround I've seen in a rapper, I think. Was that how it was for y'all?
I wasn't aware that he got too much hate before that. I don't know.
It could have just been, I don't know.
That might have just, it could have been an anomaly with your group. But I mean, exactly. I've got one friend in particular that likes to shit on J. Cole because he's just like, you're rich now. Like, stop rapping about being a regular guy. And it's like, okay, like that's your hate. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what's your comment on the actual song?
Yeah, seriously.
Plus, he has tons of flexes in his music now. Like, so much of his music is flexing, and it's like you kind of have to at that point. Like the easiest way to come up with songs is to rap about what you know. So if what you know is a shitload of money, but you still like to have dusty sneakers, like, okay, that's probably how his song is going to sound.
Yeah, and like a lot of his music is like Wet Dreams, for example. It's so relatable because, and like, you don't have to be rich and famous to, like, you know, give a funnier kind of song like that where everyone can relate, like just like stupid shit like that. Like that's a stupid, yeah, it's stupid hate. He probably appreciates the music but doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, Austin, you've been very generous with your time. You are 1 hour ahead, being in Lincoln, Nebraska. So you're in the central time zone of America. So, you know, we don't want to keep you on too long. I did have one final line of inquiry for you. I saw on your Instagram bio that you're a big Chelsea FC guy.
I am, unfortunately, for most people.
Yeah. How long have you been a Chelsea fan? When did you get into that? Are you
really
enjoying yourself this season?
If the Ricketts buy the club, I'm gonna fucking jump in front of a bus. Same friend, J. Cole hater, whose name's Tyler. Shout out Shu. He's an enormous Chelsea fan, huge. And I hung out with him, and I have really turned into an enormous football fan in the last like year and change, really since the pandemic. And when it came back and soccer was the only thing on, I started playing FIFA all the time, and now I'm just addicted to it. I'm like, you know, drawing up formations. I'm like, oh, this is how your tactics should look. Like, this is how you should play. I'm like, I've never hardly kicked a ball in my life. So Shu, one of my other friends, you guys may or may not remember Dalton. He's a huge Tottenham fan. And so I was kind of a loose, like on again, off again, like Spurs guy. And that's no fun for anybody. Tottenham is just fucking garbage. So yeah. I chose some agency, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually pick a club that like I'm going to pick. And it was between Chelsea and Liverpool. And I hung, because we had another buddy who lived with us for a while. Was a huge Liverpool fan. And I was like, oh, People's Club, like that could be something easily. You know, I like Mo Salah, like, you know, it's a whole thing. And then I was watching the Champions League final with my friend Shu, and his passion and like just watching the game with him. And when Chelsea won, and he's just like, yeah, take that, Pep, go fuck yourself. It's like, you fucking suck. Tuchel's got your fucking balls in his trophy case. Like, go fuck yourself. And so I was like, word for word, that's what he was saying. So I was like, yep, all right, I'm on board. And I've just been Chelsea FC guy ever since. So not the origin story of my fandom that, you know, garners the most appreciation, kind of doing that little switch across London. But, you know, I like it. I think that the loss to Brentford over the weekend was fucking embarrassing. Obviously, they're not going to win the league. They probably either get bounced this week or then their next matchup in Champions League. But I'm hoping new ownership cares as much as Abramovich did. I hope that they can go buy Declan Rice this summer and have another monster to clean up in the midfield. And, you know, I like it. I like cheering for the Blues. I like keeping that blue flag flying high. and it's just fun to have a club and have a new sport that's something that I didn't really grow up with, and something that I can appreciate as an adult. Have that kind of novel experience.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I was curious because I'm a very casual Premier League follower and fan. My origin story towards fandom is makes yours seem super strong. I pretty arbitrarily picked Man City to support because it was Noel Gallagher's favorite football club, and a lot of my other favorite bands loved Man City. And so I was like, I'm a Man City fan now. And so I keep up with it as much as I can.
I mean,
it's fun.
I personally fucking hate Man City, but like there are worse clubs to pick.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could pick like United or something, which would just be awful.
That'd be awful. I know. I knew well enough, even then, having almost no knowledge of the Premier League, that Man United was not cool to.
Yeah, no,
to like.
It's not. And I think too, what's kind of funny about Spurs is I think it's almost like a hipster club to like people that are the casual fans or like that don't really care, like root for Tottenham, and so that's kind of the move, is to just root for that Big Six club. So yeah, there are worse choices that you could have made, and City's going to win the league again, and they're a phenomenal club, and it just sucks to watch them win all the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for validating that. I appreciate it, and it was interesting to hear about your rise to fandom for that. Guys, any last questions for Austin?
I do have one last question. I'm going to preface by saying it's not just for Austin. This is a group bonding question, if that's cool with everybody. I'm going to go ahead and take it.
You want confirmation?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I don't know. Yeah, that's cool.
I said no with my head. I said no.
I saw that. But you were muted, so I'm going to just unvalidate it, all right? God damn it. Anyways, if you were forced to eat a crayon, what color would you pick and why?
Red.
Why?
Reminds me of penises.
Green.
Okay, that's that. Colin, that's that.
I don't think that's a bad answer.
Red because of cocks?
Oh man, what doesn't remind me of cocks these days? If I
certainly not crayons.
I don't know. I don't think it matters. They're all going to taste like shit.
But you can placebo effect it.
Green tastes better. I promise.
Dude, I asked
you have a lot of experience eating crayons.
Yeah, actually.
Unfortunately, not enough.
Okay. Well, just with how much confidence he has, I'm going to go with green too.
Green.
Yeah, seems like green is the consensus, and then we got Red Rocket over here.
I asked my homie Colin, not Colin, but my buddy Colin Foy. Shout out Colin. And he said black, and he was set in his ways with black.
Nah.
Dude, that on your tongue, like,
yeah,
just
I was deeply disturbed.
And how your teeth would look after that would be so gnarly.
A black crayon.
red would look like you were eating somebody's
penis,
like flesh. I think that'd be white, bro.
Not the way I do it, bro. I'm not very good.
A lot of teeth.
Yeah, it's very toothy.
I regret bringing this question on the podcast.
I don't.
I
don't think you should.
What about you, fucking wise guy? What color would you pick?
Fuck, man. I don't know. I guess I've never actually considered it.
God, this kid.
He never has an answer for his own question.
Like a teal, or like a nice scarlet color.
So teal,
scarlet, red.
Yeah, I think scarlet red. Yeah.
So red.
What red?
So yeah, fuck your red, Colin. God damn it. All right.
That way, if I throw up later, it looks like I threw up blood.
Yeah. That's how I used to get. Yeah, when. That's how I used to get out of going to school when I was a kid. I'd just throw up red crayon in front of my mom.
First thing in the morning, I put a bunch of crayons under my pillow, and I know that when I wake up, I got to eat like 7 of these.
That makes waking up on a Monday way more difficult. Not only is it the start of the week, but I put down 7 crayons.
What is the strangest thing y'all have eaten?
Dicks.
I don't think that's very strange. I think that there's a large population of people that have eaten dicks.
Quail. There we go.
You have?
Have you actually eaten quail?
Yeah.
How was it?
Quail egg or actual quail meat?
Both. Yeah,
Oh.
both. It kind of tastes like chicken.
That's what
For
everyone
me,
says.
I haven't been to. I'm not necessarily a picky eater. I don't eat meat anymore, so that limits what I can eat as far as strange foods. But before I didn't eat meat, I was out with Keaton one time. We were at a Spanish restaurant and we ate crickets, Keat.
There you go.
They were actually very good. They're well seasoned, very
It was on the
crunchy.
guac, right?
Be a
on the
great
guac.
way to replace
Right.
cattle in agriculture is to have people eat crickets, but they're too set in their ways.
You
Absolutely.
could boof them too. What?
That's a good source of protein. Julian, what was yours?
I had an Arby's beef and cheddar a few weeks ago. I was rough.
Oh, that sounds
First
so
time I've
bad.
ever had Arby's. I
Oh.
made
You
it.
picked-
I made it
That
that
was
long.
sucks.
Dude, you should have
I
went with a
didn't
Euro.
pick what? They have euros?
Arby has euros.
And they're awesome, dude. Their Euros fuck.
Is it actually lamb meat that they put in them?
I don't know.
It's all horse,
Is it-
bro.
Yeah, I guess you don't know
It's Doug Dimmadome.
what you're eating at all. Yeah.
That's what the hat's for on the logo.
Ah,
No, their Euros are banging. Highly recommend.
Interesting.
I don't think I've actually eaten weird food before.
Yeah.
Everything I've eaten I've considered normal. So I don't know.
My
I'm sorry.
dad likens the roast beef at Arby's to the paper that you get in between cheese slices from a deli. And if that is not the most descriptive, like so oddly specific way to describe something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Dad, do you regularly eat cheese paper? And he's like, no, I just know what that tastes like. I'm like, all right, I came out of your balls. That's so weird.
Speaking of coming out of balls, no, I'm just joking.
You had to
Amazing
think of that.
segue. Amazing segue.
I like I said, don't eat meat anymore, so I haven't had Arby's in a while. But I do remember one time when I was younger, when I played hockey, the closest food establishment to the hockey rink was an Arby's.
Remember that place called?
Yeah, Cam, I'm sure was there. And we were like playing a tournament there, and I hadn't eaten all day and was starving. And as like a 10-year-old, I do remember putting down close to 10 roast beef Arby's sandwiches.
Oh man.
And I was surprisingly fine
It's because you were young.
afterwards. Yeah, it was young.
And it just played a bunch of hockey, burning
Yeah.
hella calories doing that.
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And
That's
it,
dangerous.
you know, didn't shit more blood than usual. So.
What did your asshole look like?
You say it so nonchalant, like didn't drip more blood than usual. It's like that South Park episode where everybody's getting bloody diarrhea from Chipotle.
Yeah, Chipotle away. Chipotle
Yeah.
away.
And
Yeah.
everyone's like, dude,
Yeah.
why are you shitting blood? It's like, "It's just Chipotle." Well, then why would you keep eating it? Because it's good.
Yeah. I know. I thought that was funny because Chipotle always seemed like the version of fast food burritos that wouldn't make you shit blood. But I guess it's common enough for
No,
people
fuck
that
no.
it resonated on a South Park episode. So
Well, you guys more Chipotle or Qdoba kind of people?
Chipotle.
Ooh,
I'm Chipotle
con-
now.
I've
Yeah,
converted since I've
same.
lived in this godforsaken state.
Definitely
Yeah.
used to be Qdoba, and now I'm Chipotle.
But
That's like-
Qdoba breakfast, baby. Qdoba breakfast is so good.
Qdoba breakfast
Yeah.
slaps. That shit is too small. Why do they gotta make breakfast portions smaller? It's like that's when you need protein the most.
Yeah,
That's true.
Fuckers.
I know.
Someday.
What dick? You should sue.
Oh, I tried
Yeah, fuck
suing.
them.
I need to get a lawyer first, as it turns out.
Well, I'm well versed in
Myself
bird
in
loss.
it.
Maybe I can
Yeah.
help you out.
Protein.
There's this place in Lincoln called Abelardo's that I've been hitting lately, and they have this spicy Diablo burrito. Dude, like 2-3 bites in, I am just sweating like I played 2 hours of pickup ball, and it's everything, man. And talk about something that's going to make you shit your britches, but it is so fucking good.
That's how I feel about Panda Express. Every time I eat Panda
Oh,
Express, my bowels wreak havoc for like a full 24 hours, but like it's so good.
I
That's
actually
why
used to
Panda was
use
bad.
Panda Express's fried rice to regulate myself in college. That was the one thing that did give me consistent firm poopies.
Oh no, they're firm. It's like they're too firm. That's the problem. They like rip you apart when they're coming out.
These shitting bricks, aren't you?
And then it feels like your stomach has like a chain, like just being pulled on the bottom of it. Is that just a me thing?
I think you should see a doctor.
Yeah, I think
you
agree
just
with Austin.
need your asshole waxed.
That my asshole's pretty waxy.
Is that where you get the name Wax Romantics?
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we love wax
Yeah.
buttholes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Are you fucking with me, or is that for real?
No, we are all clean shaven like babies down there, clean wax like babies down there.
I get a daily wax.
Waxed and vaxxed. Yeah.
We do it to each other on band practice. It's the second half of our practices. I have a wax kid.
Mm-hmm.
I have to dabble.
I'll send you a picture after this.
Yeah,
I would be offended if you didn't.
wax ass.
I would
have
be
videos from
very
last week,
offended if
actually.
you didn't send me a picture immediately. Don't even wait for me to hop off. Just send it now.
I'll
make
just
it
go
my-
ahead
my
and just
Zoom
take my
background
pants
real
off
quick.
right now.
You have a Tor browser I can send it to you on?
Yeah, we've gotten flagged way too much on Instagram for DMing those to fans. That used to be our thing. It would be follow for a waxed asshole picture.
My thing
You
is
have to
just
guess
like,
which one it was, and we'd send you a free sticker.
here's what you do: get on the Wax Romantics Instagram, DM everyone that follows us, and just be like, "Yo, can I have $20?" You'll make money. You'll make money. I guarantee it.
That's what other people seem to be doing, because I get asked for money so often on the Wax Romantics account. I think people maybe think we're doing well. We're not.
Well, that's kind of what I was gonna say. Is like, you were saying like in your rap career. I'm like, I mean, it's kind of a hobby. I got like 80 people to listen to me on Spotify. Like, it's more of something I dabble in, but
Oh man, it's gonna grow. You're gonna like, for people who are listening, definitely check it out. It is gonna grow, man, and you're gonna get a following for sure. I feel
gotta have
confident,
that
'cause it's
luxurious
very
Wax
strong.
Romantics crossover.
Yeah, definitely. You're gonna get a good portion of our fan base. You know, we have 20 people regularly listening to this podcast, assuming 5% of them check out the
Parents.
mixtape. You do, yeah. Yeah. Julian's
That's what we
mom will
need.
check out the mixtape, I'm sure.
Dude, my mother-in-law listens to it, and it's so weird. She's like, I
That's
love
funny.
it. Like, it's so good. I'm like, really? Just me talking about like smoking weed at your house and making love to your daughter? Like, that's okay. I mean, I guess she's like, gosh,
Making
it's
love
easy
to
to
your
listen
daughter.
to. She's like, I wish sometimes you'd have topics that were, a little different, like subject matter. And I'm like, that ain't gonna change.
That's funny.
It's
because
gonna get
sometimes-
worse.
It's just me.
Sometimes my girlfriend's mom will like something on Instagram. I'm like, oh yeah, like this stuff exists in reality. Like people are checking this out. It always is kind of a slight panic moment. I'm proud of this podcast, only music we put out, but it is sometimes funny to be like, oh yeah, like this isn't just for us.
I finally stuck my neck out and sent it to my coworkers, because like I never had shared with my coworkers in the almost 2.5 years that I've been here, to be like, oh yeah, I actually like do this. And I was like, fuck it. This is good enough. I'm sending it to them. Like, it's in a good spot. And I'm like, they're all going to know how much of a fucking stoner weirdo I am. And some of them are like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like, I'm quite impressed. I couldn't do this. I'm like, shit, I know you couldn't.
That's interesting to hear, because I now some of my coworkers are on to Wax Romantics, just because I don't know, they found it on Facebook or whatever. But yeah, it always takes me off guard when I'm in a Zoom meeting talking about something boring, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, checked out Wax Romantics."
The best is when you have somebody that doesn't know, like, but they hear it and you're like, this is you?
Mhm.
Like, no way. Like, this is you. That's the feeling. That's when you're like, I fucking made it. Like,
Yeah.
they heard my SoundCloud. They played it twice. I got like 14 listens, man. Watch out, Billboard. Watch out.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is a great feeling, and like massive success is just a scaled up version
Yeah,
of that.
well-
Of people being like, "This is you." Yeah.
Hey, you can also define massive success in your own way. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
not to be that fucking guy or whatever, but I have another band that's not Wax Romantics where we haven't released music in a long time, and we have like 10, 12 monthly listeners, but just that feels like a victory in itself, considering the fact that we haven't released music in a long time. And
Dude,
even
if
still,
one
people will be like, I checked out your shit finally, and it's like, okay, cool, yeah.
if
that
one
shit's out
person
there.
likes your music, dude, it's, and other than you, like, you should like your own music. But if one person likes it, I call that a success. Like my one of my big goals was to just, like I said, get it to sound good. And it's like now people are like, hey, that sounds like quote unquote professional, as in like it seems like an engineer actually mixed it and mastered it and stuff. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I have 5 listeners or 5 million or whatever. Like, I make something that I enjoy and I think is crisp and is something that can be like stylistically and production wise played on the radio. I'm good. Like, I'm good. I could die and never make any more music and be like, you know what? I did a lot of stuff that I wanted to do. And over the course of 5-6 years, I sound much better. And that's all that matters. Because so much people blow up because they know somebody in the industry, or they get lucky, or people just like dumb shit and support their music, like the fucking Island Boys.
Yeah,
whatever.
people get big off of one thing that's either
Yeah,
catchy
so
or memeable.
so it's like, would I rather be famous for being a meme, or would I rather just make shit that like some of my friends like? And I would choose the latter on that one every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is all about novelty today. Like if there's something novel about you, or like you said, memeable,
Yeah.
that's what's
I mean,
catching on. And like,
I'd take the
especially
money.
TikTok culture now.
Like, it'd be sick to
Depends on
be as
Sunday.
rich as Drake or Post Malone or any of those, but I think the fame would suck ass. People asking you for shit all the time, never leaving you alone. Like, they don't want to know the real you. They just want this idea of you. Like, I don't want to be a big famous rapper. I just want a lot of people to listen to my shit so I get streams. Like, that's that fine line. Like, I want to sit in that. I make about $50,000 a year off music. That's like the highest level of success I think that I could ever strive for, and it would be just sick as fuck.
That's a good goal too. That's not like far fetched by any means either. Like, you could totally get there.
It's cool that you're like open about that too, and that you have a tangible goal like that. Because I think a lot of people, like including myself, are kind of often coy or unsure about what they like want out of their creative endeavor. So yeah, I think that's cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I get those feelings too, and like, I get those like, oh, I just won't make it anymore. And then like the next hour, I'm like kicking around an idea for like a bar. I'm like, oh, I should go write that down. So it's like, it's just something that we are, like, I never likened myself as super musically inclined as a kid, which I hate so much and regret so much that I never like took piano lessons or did anything really like that, or like took choir and stuff and didn't start taking it seriously until now, because I just think of how far behind I set myself. Like, yeah, I have this amazing hobby and this love that I will carry with me till I stop breathing. Like, that's awesome. But to be able to have that foundation from childhood would have just made it like tenfold better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you also hear about the artists who, it goes both ways. I do, like, you hear about the child prodigies, and you're like, fuck, I'm not that. But then you also hear about people more like, you're like, yeah, I didn't really give a shit. I just started making music in my like early 20s, and then they're making amazing music, and you're like, that's cool too, though.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or like the Jeff Goldblums of the world who just make their nut in acting, and then they're like, I've been kicking around jazz piano for a little bit, and then they release like a jazz album that just goes so fucking hard, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
That's sick.
You can do that?
Yeah, good point.
Well, I
do
mean,
need
then
to talk
a bunch
about
of
that album sometime.
NBA players now, like all of them are rappers too, because like basketball and hip hop go together, like freaking wine and cheese. So many of those guys, like, yeah, they get to the league and stuff, but music is their real passion. And even if they'll never make even close to what they make playing basketball, like they'll be rappers on the side forever. I mean,
Same with the
It's just good that so many people take an interest in music and want to make it. I think that's just an inherently good thing.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a fantastic note to go out on. Guys, round of applause for A-Lux.
Clap for myself on that one.
Thank you.
Please do.
for coming
Yeah,
on,
thanks
man.
so much for being on the pod, man. We'd love to have you back
Anytime.
one day soon. Okay.
Anytime, dude. I love talking with you guys. It's nice meeting you, Julian and Cam,
Nice
seeing you
meeting
again.
you, homie.
Yeah, man.
Pete
Good to
and
see you,
Colin.
Austin.
Always a pleasure. Don't hesitate to reach out if you guys ever want me to pop on. So
Absolutely, dude. All right. Thanks, man. Have a good night. Love you
Have a
guys.
good night, guys.
Love
Peace out.
y'all. Take care.
Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.